الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم رب صائم ليس له من صيامه إلا الجوع ورب قائم ليس له من قيامه إلا السهر صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين أما بعد Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered us once again to come to His house on Jumu'ah Salah and pray the Salatul Jumu'ah with Jama'at. This is a great reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only chooses those people He wants to enter inside His house. It's not like our house. If we don't want someone to come inside our house, then he can just come in anytime he wants. No, but he has to ask permission first. Once he gets permission, then we let him enter inside our house. The same way, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's house. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tawfiq. It is no ability from our own side, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala specifically chose us. Another thing is that alhamdulillah, all of us are fasting. So fasting is from one of the great symbols of Islam. Fasting is from the sha'air of Islam. Fasting is one of the great signs of Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَنْ يُعَذِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ Whosoever gives importance, whosoever deems it important to give importance to the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ It's a clear sign to show that those people have taqwa in their hearts. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a glad tidings and the basharat that we as Muslims, we have taqwa in our hearts. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to begin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, talking about the ayah, شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, شَهْرُ Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. This month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, He exclusively named this month Ramadan. It's not like the other months of the Arabic calendar, for example, Rajab, Shawwal, Rabiul Akhir, Rabiul Awwal. The Arabs used to name the months themselves. For example, Rabiul Awwal would mean the first spring, and Rabi'ul Thani would be the second spring. But no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, He named this month Ramadan. How? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this word Ramadan, Shahr Ramadan, it comes inside the Quran. And the Quran was revealed, was already written inside Lawh Mahfuz before the creation of the heavens and the earth, before the creation of Adam alayhi salam. So this month holds a very special place in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Shahr Ramadan, what a great month, what a noble month, what a powerful month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us this. And who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Who do we know? What do we know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that supreme being. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that divine reality. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the controller of all the affairs in the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling every single thing we see. It doesn't matter how scientifically advanced we may look. It doesn't matter how technologically advanced we think we may be in years. But the reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling each and everything. controlling. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling your heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling my heart. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling all the hearts of all the scientists in the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you were to take all the oceans and you turn into ink, and if you were to take all the pens, if you were to take all the trees, you turn it into pens, and then you begin writing about the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oceans will finish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, throw another 7 oceans in, throw all the rivers in, throw everything in, take that ink will dry up, the pens will break, but the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be comprehended. This is the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't imagine how great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in all His glory and all His majesty, He's telling us that this is such a great month. And not only that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has infinite knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's going to happen, what could have happened, what happened already, what might have happened. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows every single thing. When it rains, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where each and every single raindrop falls. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where it doesn't fall. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the condition of every single leaf on every single tree. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the condition of every single drop of the ocean. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has complete knowledge. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already knows everything that is great. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all the great things that He created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows all the small things that He created. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His complete knowledge, in His complete wisdom, in His complete grandeur, in His complete majesty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us in the Quran, Shahr Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. What a month, what a great month. This is the month of Ramadan. This is a month of forgiveness. This is a month of barakat. This is a month of rahmat. This is a month of hidayat. This month has goodness for us in our deen, for our dunya, for our akhirat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us this. Now when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying Shahr Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately turns our attention. What is the first thing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions after saying the name of Ramadan? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if we continue the ayah, Shahr Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran, that month in which the Quran was revealed. And this is a very, unfortunately, this is a very neglected aspect of our deen nowadays. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the month of Ramadan gained its nobility through the Quran. Ramadan is not only about fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the first thing I want to draw your attention towards of this month is the greatness and the auspiciousness of my word, of the kalam of Allah, of the Quran Majid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying this is the month of the Quran. This is a month where you should reattach yourself to the Quran. We should reaffirm our intentions to reattach ourselves to the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that this is the month of Quran, and the superiority of the Quran over all other words is like the superiority of Allah over the entire creation. This is why I want to start my talk today with the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to understand how Ramadan got its nobility from the Quran, we can understand it through an example. For example, in a community of houses, there are many houses, and say for example, a very pious person, a buzurg, or a very famous personality were to enter this community. For example, one of the imams of the haram, maybe Sheikh Sudais, or maybe Sheikh Shuraim, or maybe Sheikh Mishari, they decide to come and they enter one of these houses. Now, these shuyukh could have entered any of the houses inside the community, but they chose that one house, and that one house now became very special. If one house, we know that the kurta or the shirt of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam happened to be in that house, this house would be famous throughout the whole community. This house would be honored. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have revealed the Quran in any other month, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to reveal it inside Ramadan. And Ramadan is special because of this reason. If we look in all the tafasir, we see that all the sacred scriptures were revealed inside this month as well. So Ramadan got its nobility through the Quran. So if we see our Salafus Salihin and all the pious predecessors, our pious predecessors, all the Sahaba, all the Tabi'een, and all the ulama and all the fuqaha and all the muhaddiseen of the past, what was their connection to the Quran in the month of Ramadan? We see Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anhu, if we study their lives, Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, when she used to start Ramadan, she used to start reading the Quran from the beginning of the day, and she used to only finish at the end of the day. It is narrated about Imam Shafi'i and Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi alayhima that they used to complete 60 khatams of the Quran inside Ramadan. Subhanallah. It is narrated that Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayhi, the legend Imam Malik, the founder of the Maliki Mazhab, he would cease narrating a hadith. He would stop attending the gatherings of ilm, and he would just separate himself, disassociate himself from everybody, and he used to just be involved in and engaged in reciting the Quran from its pages. So these are the lives of our pious predecessors. If we were to study our lives of the pious predecessors, it would give us encouragement to do all these good deeds. I'm not saying that we should go and try to do 60 khatams of the Quran Kareem. That's very hard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives it to whomsoever He wills. Myself personally, that's a great amount. Even for being a hafiz, I find that extremely difficult. But I'm saying that if these were the conditions of our Salafus Salihin, and these were their goals and these were their achievements, compared to us nowadays. Nowadays, we don't even read the Quran. Forget reading about the Quran, we don't even want to look inside the Quran. Nowadays, how many of us can recite these basic surahs which impact the correctness of our salahs, which impact if our salahs are going to be accepted or not? How many of us can recite these surahs properly? How many of us give importance to learning how to read the Quran? How many Ramadans have passed? If we're 20 Ramadans have passed, 30 Ramadans have passed, 40 Ramadans have passed, 50 Ramadans have passed, and we're still reading the same old way we're used to reading. We're not making any effort to correct ourselves. We're not making any effort to improve ourselves. We're not making any effort to gain the nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not reaffirming our attachment to the Quran. We don't even know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. This is our fault. Astaghfirullah, subhanallah. Many of us don't even have the intention of opening the Quran. It just passes by, it's on the shelf. We come for Tarawih Salah, we listen to the beautiful Hufaz reciting, the beautiful voices of the Hufaz reciting, and we end it there. After Tarawih Salah, no more Quran, no more anything. We go back to our original habits. We should at least make a small effort, at least 10 minutes. At least 10 minutes we should just sit down and read something. How many more years are going to go by? We should come inside the masjid, we should open the Quran Sharif, and then we should read the Quran a little bit. We should try to improve our tajweed a little bit. We should try to memorize a small passage. Maybe 30 Ramadans have passed and we didn't even memorize a single ayat of the Holy Quran. We didn't even read the translation of the single ayat of the Holy Quran. We didn't even know what our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created us, we don't even know what our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants from us. And it's sad today, when we come inside the masjid, I noticed that this year when I came back from South Africa, I saw a lot of people, they don't like to touch the Quran Sharif anymore. They would come inside the masjid, they would sit down in front of the bookshelf. The bookshelf would have 50, 60, 70 Quran Sharif for them, but they don't want to touch it. Instead, what do? They would take out their new phone, their S5 and their iPhones, and they would start opening the Quran app on their iPhones. Whereas there's so many Qurans on the shelf, there's a separate reward for touching the noble words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But today, many people, they don't like to touch the Quran Sharif anymore. Someone came up to me about this technology. Technology is very nice, alhamdulillah. It has a bunch of apps. It has so many things we can benefit from. But this is the Quran Sharif. We should touch the Quran Sharif and we should read it like our Salafus Salihin. Unfortunately, today I was sitting down. I was preparing for Tarawih Salah. And then one of the brothers came to me and he said, "So what kind of phone do you have now?" Because I was very interested in phones from before. So I said, "I'm not that interested anymore. I have a simple phone." It was just a simple touchscreen phone. So then to engage in the conversation, I just asked him, "What kind of phone do you have now?" So he said, so proudly, and he said so happily, "I have the S5. So with the S5, so I'm like, okay, so what's so special about this S5? What are you going to do with this S5? So he said, alhamdulillah, you know what it can do? It has a heart rate monitor. So I'm like, subhanallah, you have a heart rate monitor on your phone. What are you going to do with that? And he has as a thumbprint scanner. So I'm, subhanallah, what's the point of this? So you're going to go to someone, you're going to show off that my phone has a heart rate monitor, my phone has a thumbprint scanner, and they're going to take out their same S5 and they're going to say the same exact thing. And then we're just caught up inside this deception of society, that society is telling us we have to have the best technology, we have to be so advanced, and if we're not advanced, we look so backwards. But this is not what the Quran teaches. This is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches. This is not what Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam teaches. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to live a life of piety and devotion and of simplicity. But anyways, to come back to the point, let us try to read the Quran. Let us try to live the Quran. Let us try to practice upon the Quran. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a walking Quran. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave so many fazilat, so many virtues and so many rewards about the recitation of the Quran. We all know the famous hadith. I am not saying that alif lam mim is one letter. No, but alif is one letter, lam is one letter, and then mim is one letter. And each letter has its own separate 10 virtues. And we know in Ramadan has come. So Ramadan, in the hadith it says that every single nafil act would be equivalent to a farz act. And every single nafil act will be multiplied 70 times. So if we join the two hadiths together, we have 70 times 10. So that's 700 rewards for each single letter that we read from the Quran Sharif. And another hadith, it's mentioned that those people who are proficient in reciting the Quran Sharif, they'll be with the noble angels. That is there. But many of us, most of us, the hadith goes on to say, those people who struggle with the recitation of the Quran, those people who can't read the recitation of the Quran, those people who falter, those people who don't know properly how to recite the Quran, it's very hard for them. It takes so long. It's very time consuming. They don't want to do it. It's very hot outside. They have better things to do. They have school. They have job. They don't have time to read the Quran. For them, there's going to be double reward. So if we join all three of these hadiths, 700 times 2, 1400 rewards for each and every single harf of the Quran. What are we waiting for, brothers? This is Ramadan. If we're not going to do it now, if we're not going to become cognizant of fixing our Quran or fixing our lifestyle inside Ramadan, when shaitan is chained, number one, our hearts are become softer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us more receptive towards receiving information from the Quran. Our hearts have become softer. We're inside Ramadan. We are fasting throughout the day. We are freed from this ritual of food and drink. If we're not going to do it now, when else are we going to do it? And there's such a great incentive for us. Every single letter is 1400 reward. But we're not able to quantify the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can't restrict the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy cannot be restricted. Someone heard that such a great reward is going to be given. So they asked an alim, alim sahab, what is this? Why? That's impossible. We can't get so many reward. The alim sahab said, you're right. These people are crazy, whoever's saying this. We can't get so much reward. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot be restricted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give much more than this. This is just the minimum amount of reward we can receive, my brothers. So inshallah, there's a Urdu saying, is jiski jitni qurbani, uski utni meherbani. Whoever does more, he's going to get more. And then if you don't want to do it, if someone doesn't want to do it, someone wants to say, I'm too old. It's too old now. I can't improve my recitation. I have school, I have work, I have to job. Who's going to feed the kids? If someone doesn't want to do something, then the excuses, he's going to have 1,000 excuses. Agar tu hi na chahe, to bahana hazar. If you don't want to do it, you have 1,000 excuses. You have 100 excuses. You won't be able to do it ever inside your life. So we have to change this. We have to make Ramadan this turning point inside our lives. And then, after Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say, شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Guidance for mankind, the criterion for distinguishing falsehood and truthhood. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whosoever is fortunate enough to be present during the month of Ramadan, so he should fast in that day. Now, to begin with, there's a world of difference between fasting and staying hungry. If we were to digress for just a bit, touching on the topic of hunger and thirst, if we study the lives of Sahaba, we would see that the lives of the Sahaba were filled with hunger and thirst. This was part and parcel of their everyday lives. This was the price of their iman. Hunger and thirst was not restricted to Ramadan. There was no joy when Ramadan ended. There was no joy when sunset arrived. After Ramadan, there was hunger and thirst. Before Ramadan, there was hunger and thirst. It was narrated that Umar radiallahu anhu was asked by a few tabi'een. They asked him, Ya Umar, haddisna an sa'at al-usra. Oh Umar radiallahu anhu, just tell us, you became Muslim in the beginning. We became Muslim at the end. We don't know how it happened. We don't know all the difficulties you guys went through. So just explain to us, just tell us about the hardships and the difficulties. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, tell us about the Sa'atul Usra, the hour of difficulty. This was such a time in the lives of the Sahaba and the Prophet that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all his infinite knowledge, all his infinite wisdom, all his majesty, all his grandeur, all his power, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran himself, he calls it the hour of difficulty. So imagine how great this difficulty was for the Sahaba. Umar radiallahu anhu says, we went out for the expedition of Tabuk to go out, and there was intense heat, and the heat was extremely severe. It was so severe, the munafiqeen said, لا تنفروه في الحر. Don't go out inside the heat. You're going to kill yourselves. Don't go out inside the heat. It's going to be extremely severe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in response to the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ نَارُ جَهَنَّمَ أَشَدُّ حَرًّا. Say that the fire of Jahannam is hotter than the fire of this world. Anyways, so then they went out. Umar radiallahu anhu says, we kept on continuing our journey until we came to such a point where the thirst became so much, حَتَّى ظَنَنَّا أَنَّ رِقَابَنَا سَتَنْتَقِعُ. Until we thought that it was the end, until we thought that our necks were going to be cut from the thirst, from such extreme hunger and from such extreme thirst. This was the struggles of the Sahaba. This was the hunger and the thirst of the Sahaba. And my mothers and my sisters in the back, it wasn't exclusive only to the men. If we look at the life of Asma bint Abu Bakr, the daughter of Abu Bakr, one occasion, it was part and parcel of their everyday lives, this hunger and thirst. It was a price of their iman. They had to undergo fasting, and they had to undergo through hunger and thirst for their entire lives. Hazrat Asma bint Abu Bakr, she says, my husband left. He was with the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam in an expedition. So I was alone at home. وَإِنِّي حَامِلٌ بِبِنْتِ خَدِيجَةَ. And I was also pregnant with my soon-to-be daughter Khadija radiallahu Khadija. And now she says that there was no food inside the house. There was no one inside the house. Only I was inside the house. وَإِنَّ لَنَا جَارٌ مِنَ الْيَهُودِ. And we had a Yahudi, we had a Jewish neighbor. And the Jewish neighbor, the wife was there, but the husband went out. So what happened? She was very hungry. And then she noticed that her neighbor, the Jewish lady, she ذُبِحَ الشَّاةِ. She took a sheep and she slaughtered it. After that, وَطُبِخَتْ. This sheep was roasted. And the smell, the aroma was entering her house. Now she was beginning to be very hungry, and the hunger started becoming so severe. She thought to herself, I am surely going to perish. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have mercy on me. After a while, the hunger became unbearable. She goes to the Jewish lady, and she asks her, under the guise of borrowing fire from her, she says that I went to her, تَقْتَسِبُ نَارًا. I went to her and I sought fire in the guise that maybe she may give me some food. So she goes to this Yahudi lady, she says, may I have some fire? And the Yahudi lady says, no problem, here. And then so she goes back, and she was heartbroken. She didn't have any food to eat. She goes, she's sitting down, she has the fire is burning in the house, and this fire is aggravating her, and the thirst is getting even more unbearable, the hunger is getting even more unbearable. She goes, she said, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have mercy on me. She couldn't take it anymore. So she said, maybe this Yahudi lady, she's going to give me, if I ask again, maybe she'll give it to me again. So she goes again to this Yahudi lady. She said, may I have some more fire? And something wasn't clicking. She wasn't getting it that my neighbor was hungry. So then she comes back, Asma comes back with the fire, and then she breaks down. She begins to cry. She begins to sob. She begins to weep. She asks, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am at your mercy. I am at your disposal. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make it easy for me. And then when the husband of the Yahudi lady comes inside the house, she asks her, did anybody come to you today? Did anybody come inside the house today? And she says, Al-Arabiyatu taqtasibu nara. Yes, the Arab lady, she came and she was asking for fire. Then this husband understood that she was very hungry. She said, I'm not going to take a morsel of this food until you send her a platter of this food. And it was a very simple dish. So then this Yahudi lady, she gives it to Asma bint Abu Bakr, the daughter of Abu Bakr radiallahu anha, the older sister of Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha. She gives this platter of food. Hazrat Asma bint Abu Bakr, she says, this was the most delicious thing I ever ate in my entire life. So this was the hunger and this was the starvation of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu. In the expedition of Khandaq, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they were all digging the trench. All the Sahaba, they were so hungry, they were so thirsty, they began to tie stones to their stomach. Each Sahaba had one stone tied to their stomach. They wanted to complain to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. May Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam would have some food for us to eat. They go to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They ask Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, oh Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, look what hunger has done to us. They lifted up their shirts. They saw one stone. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw one stone tied to each one of their stomachs. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam started crying. He lifted up his own shirt. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had two stones tied to his stomach. This is the starvation and the hunger of the Sahaba radiallahu anhum and our pious predecessors. If we see today, Today, the hunger and starvation around the world, we see in Syria, there's 500,000 orphans, which means that if they're orphans, their parents were killed. So if there are 500,000 orphans, these are just the figures that the UN released. We really don't know the ground figures and how many people actually there are. My ustads back in South Africa, they're involved in a lot of relief efforts, emergency efforts in the African countries. So they went to Syria to see the condition of the whole status, to see the condition of the area. So they narrate to us some incidents which I would like to share. They said one time we were going on the street and there was a small boy, he was selling toilet paper on the road. And then so we took out from our pockets, we took out and we gave him like 100 rands, which is like the $100 bill of our currency. So this boy, he threw all of his toilet paper out and he broke down the shop and he started running away really fast. And then my ustads were calling him back. He said, "Where are you running to, little boy? Where are you running?" He's like, "My mom is waiting inside the bushes. After I sold this toilet paper, I was going to give the money to her. You made my day. You made my Ramadan. You made my whole life. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you Jannah." These orphans, they're suffering. These people in Syria, these people in Palestine, these people, sometimes we wonder, was the World Cup placed specifically in Ramadan to distract us from all these things that are happening around the world? Was it placed specifically in Ramadan so we get distracted from Ramadan? Was it placed so we become ignorant of the fact of what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Palestine, what's happening in Syria? We have to wake up, brothers and sisters. We have to wake up and see the reality. And another incident is he was describing the food that these people get on a daily basis. The Syrian, they would go to like a makeshift camp made out of cardboard. The houses, maybe there would be one mother and maybe there would be 10 children in one house. And they would get only a handful of grain for the entire day. And they, because of the influx of so many people who got deported from the country, so many people who got kicked out of the country, even that wasn't enough. They weren't even enough to give them that full one handful to be split amongst the whole families. So this is a situation inside the world, and we're living in a first world country. We have this bad habit of complaining. We have to realize, brothers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to make shukr to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He afforded us all these opportunities, and we have to make shukr for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He didn't test us, because the people in Syria, their iman is very high. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is testing them, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they all pass this test, and they all pass in Palestine, that they all pass this test, and they all be granted Jannah, inshallah. We have to see, brothers, that if we did anything to anger Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to realize, we have to think and introspect and reflect into our lives. Did I make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala angry? Maybe I complained about some kind of food. Maybe I did something bad. Maybe I hurt someone's feelings. Maybe I did this. Maybe I did that. Did we anger Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says inside a hadith, "As-sadaqatu tutfi'u ghadab al-Rabbi." That sadaqah, giving in charity, giving to all these organizations who are helping these poor people, these giving in charity, it will cool down the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we feel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with us, we have to give charity in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's anger will cool down. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a very generous person. He used to be most generous inside Ramadan. It says he was more generous than the flowing wind. When wind flows, it's very swift. The same way Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to just throw out money. Maulana Shafayat Sahab, he did all this math last week. مَثَلُ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَمَثَلِ حَبَّةٍ. It's like if you give $1 inside sadaqah, it's like one grain. And inside one grain, from that one grain, 7 ears of corn sprout. And inside each ear of corn, there's 100 grains inside that one. So this is a great amount of rewards we can be accumulating, my brothers. And we have to fast also. And getting off the topic of hunger and thirst, there's a world of difference between staying hungry and fasting. We have to fast properly. Before fasting, we have to actually fast first. Some people, they don't fast. So then we wonder, is this their religion? Are they playing with fire? No, they're playing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one brother, I remember when I came back from South Africa a few years ago, I visited one brother. And this brother was telling me that, oh, I can't. He was a very buff, very strong person. So this person was telling me, he used to work out a lot, go to the gym a lot. This person was telling me, oh, I can't fast, because I have to take my protein shakes and I have to drink my water, so I can't fast. So then some other parents are telling their children, not the now baligh children, the children who are not they didn't hit puberty yet, we're not talking about them. They're telling their old children, maybe 18, 16, 19 years old, they're telling them don't fast. So what answer are we going to give to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have to fast. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not my religion. This is not my father's religion. This is not your religion. This is not your father's religion. This is the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether we like it or not, this is one of the pillars of Islam. Of course, for many people, it is very difficult for them to fast. Many people have illnesses. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give them shifa. So also, we have to fast very properly. The rewards that are mentioned in the hadith, they are not mentioned for those people who go on a hunger strike for 12 hours. They are referring to those people who fasted properly. And what does it mean to fast properly? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned inside a hadith, those people who don't abstain from evil action and evil talk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't have any need from their fast. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you engage in backbiting, if you engage in lying, if you engage in cheating, if you engage in lustful glances, and if you're looking at something you're not supposed to be looking at, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I don't need your fast. It's as if you are not fasting, you're just staying hungry, you're going on a hunger strike for 12 hours. In another hadith, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Rubba sa'im, many fasting people, they fast and they don't get anything out of their fast except hunger. They don't achieve taqwa, they don't achieve piety. Many people who stand late at night, رُبَّ قَائِمٍ لَيْسَ لَهُ مِنْ قِيَامِهِ إِلَّا السَّهَرِ. The only thing that they get is the discomfort of staying awake at night. So these rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised for those people who are fasting, these are for those people who are actually fasting. The full benefit of Ramadan is for those people who fast. Ramadan will come to everybody. Ramadan will pass for everybody. But Eid is for the people who spent the Ramadan correctly. All these rewards that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, he says that there's a gate in Jannah called Ar-Rayyan. This gate, only people who are going to fast, they're going to enter that gate. After the people who fast enter that gate, it's going to be closed. No other person will enter those gates. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said fasting, proper fasting is a shield from the fire of Jahannam, not staying hungry. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the rewards, I told you, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam explicitly mentioned the reward for every single one of our amal. If you pray salah, you're going to get this. If you pray hajj, you're going to come back like a newborn baby, etc., etc. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says regarding about the person who fasts, that I am his reward. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself is his reward. He'll reward him on the day of Qiyamah. And Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whosoever fasted with the correct niyat, having hope for reward and having iman in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then all his past sins are going to be forgiven. So these are the great virtues in fasting of Ramadan. In the next few minutes, the second khutbah, I would just like to touch a little bit about making tawbah and taqwa, inshallah. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا بين يدي الساعة من يطع الله ورسوله فقد رشد ومن يعصهما فإنه لا يضر إلا نفسه ولا يضر الله شيئا. Alhamdulillah, the first 10 days of Ramadan have passed. We are inside the middle 10 days of Ramadan. And the hadith mentions that Ramadan is split into 3 parts. The first 10 days are for mercy, the second 10 days are for forgiveness, and the third 10 days are for the emancipation from the fire of Jahannam. So ulama, the Sufiya, they delve into this and they explain that the first 10 days are for mercy. So what does that mean? If we're seeing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for 11 months we are continuously sinning. For 11 months we're not properly praying. For 11 months we're not reading Quran, we're not fasting, we're not performing our salah and namaz properly. We're doing so many evil things. And so these first 10 days of Ramadan, these first 10 days of mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His infinite grace and mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to change for this month. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the beginning, these 10 days, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through His mercy, only through His mercy, because there's so many people out there, they're not giving the ability to fast, they're not getting the ability to pray, they're not getting the ability to recite the Quran, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this ability. Through His infinite mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us 10 days bonus extra of fasting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us 10 days of qiyam at night, tarawih salah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us 10 days of reciting the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us 10 days of becoming closer to Him. So why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us 10 days of mercy? So that the next 10 days Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can just have an excuse to forgive us. Because these 11 months Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala couldn't find any excuse to forgive us. But for these 10 days we're fasting, we are sinners the whole year, but for these 10 days we turn into walis, we become the friends of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for these next 10 days Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just a bahana, it's just an excuse to forgive us. It's an excuse to forgive all of our sins. So we see what happens in the beginning of Ramadan. What happens is that people have this josh, they have this fervor, they have this desire. When Ramadan comes, they have this zeal. They says, yeah, we're going to fast and we're going to change our lives. We're going to do this. We're going to stop committing this sin. We're going to stop listening to music. We're going to stop watching movies. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And that zeal lasts for the first 10 days. But then during the middle 10 days, that zeal, it wanders off somewhere. And then we manage to find it again during the last 10 days where we're looking for Laylatul Qadr. But what happens here is that these 10 days, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our passion for these 10 days should be even more. Our zeal for these 10 days should be even more, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness are inside these 10 days. We have to get the forgiveness, we have to gain the forgiveness for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inside these 10 days. The whole system, the whole apparatus of Ramadan was so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala closed the doors of Jahannam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened the doors of Jannah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala locked away the shayateen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enabled us to fast, to discipline our nafs, to discipline our carnal desires. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is making us pray tarawih salah as a sunnah at night. All of these so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can just forgive us inside this month. So we have to take advantage of this opportunity. We have to ask mercy. We have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His forgiveness. We have to forgive our beloved ones. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees that we are forgiving, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us also. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will love to forgive us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we should do tawbah. We should go. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ana tawwabur rahim. I accept all your tawbah. I accept all your repentance. I accept everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to say that if you as a nation, you guys will not, if this ummah will not sin and then ask me for forgiveness and then sin again and then ask me for forgiveness and then sin again and then ask me for forgiveness, I will destroy this nation. I'll create a better nation, and this nation will commit sin, and this nation will ask me for forgiveness. This nation will commit sin. This nation will ask me for forgiveness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves being asked for forgiveness. We should see how much dua we have inside our lives. Dua is a yardstick of our iman. It shows us how much we're in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It shows us how much we actually want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how close we are. If we're making a lot of dua inside our lives, it shows that we're very close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we're not making a lot of dua inside our lives, this is a time to change. This is a time to change. Allah subhanahu when Adam alayhi salam, he ate from the forbidden tree, the ulama and the fuqaha of the past, they gave 5 different reasons why the tawbah and the repentance of Adam alayhi salam was accepted. What was the first reason? The first reason was that Adam alayhi salam, he acknowledged his mistake. One thing, if we go to a rehab center, ask the doctors, they would say the most difficult patients are the ones who deny that they have a problem. So the same way, if this ummah is in denial that they're committing sins, and they will not even have the tawfiq or the ability to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, backbiting, such a severe sin, but it has become so common, has become the order of the day, has become so trivial that we don't even deem it to be bad. And because we're not even thinking it to be an evil, to be a vice, how are we going to make tawbah? The second one is that Adam alayhi salam, he felt a lot of remorse, a lot of regret. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed this remorse and regret. For example, if siblings, they hit each other, or if a parent hits their kids, the siblings would want to do something to make that up. The parents maybe might buy their kid a candy or a game or something to make that up so they don't feel bad. We have this innate nature. We want to cover up all the wrongs we did. So because Adam alayhi salam had remorse, This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave him. Another thing, Adam alayhi salam blamed only himself. He didn't say it was because of shaitan. He didn't say because it was my friends. He didn't say, he blamed himself. We accepted that we committed a mistake. Another thing, fourth thing, Adam alayhi salam, he hastened towards the tawbah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He did it very fast. And after that, after doing all this, he didn't become despondent in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The fifth one, he didn't become despondent in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He knows that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter how many times we ask for His forgiveness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will continue to forgive us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions inside the Quran, His dua, Nabi Adam alayhi salam's dua, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا, Oh my Lord, I have transgressed myself. وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. If you don't forgive us, we will definitely be from amongst the losers of dunya and akhirah. So we have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these days the most. And after we commit tawbah, it's very important that we try not to do the sin again. If we do the sin again, then we become shy of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to become shy of forgiving us. We become shy of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. The ulama say, Arba'am min al-dhanbi, sharrum min al-dhanbi. 4 things are, after committing a sin, are even worse than the sin itself. So if one commits a sin, that's an evil there, he gets a bad deed. But if that person has a certain attitude about that sin, that's even worse than the sin itself. One thing is istisghar. One thing is deeming the sin light, deeming it trivial to disobey the commandments of the Supreme Being, deeming it trivial to disobey the commandments of our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone says, oh, I just backbited a little bit. I broke my fast a little bit. It's nothing so bad. If we have this attitude, the ulama say this is even worse than committing the sin itself. The second one is istibshar, one to rejoice, to be happy about committing the sin. Unfortunately, it's so sad to see that a group of youth, they would get together and they would say, did you go to this concert last night? This concert was amazing, or this club was amazing, or this woman was amazing, this drink was amazing, this drug was amazing. Did you try it? And they're boasting with so much pride that I did this, I did that. And it is feared that this person, after boasting like this, is feared that he's deprived of iman. And there's actually a person even worse than this. A person that when that group of youth, they get together, they start talking about their sin. And then there's a person who regrets that he cannot take part in that sin also. This person says, if only I was there. This person is even worse than that one. The third thing is ightirar. We commit a sin, and then because we don't see any repercussions or consequences inside our life, we become bold and daring and we excel in that sin. We hear the hadith and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, whosoever doesn't pray Fajr Salah, then shaitan urinates in his eyes and his ears. And we don't have any worry. We think, who says my life is going to get destroyed? Who says my life is going to get ruined? Who said I'm going to suffer a loss? And then we become, I enjoy the sleep. Who's saying that I'm going to lose out on everything? I'm enjoying my sleep. I'm getting more energy. So we become more bold in committing this sin. So we have to save ourselves from this. And the last one finally is israr, to persist in the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to persist in the disobedience. We should try occasionally, if we are caught up in a sin, we should try occasionally to let it go. We should try occasionally to stop. The best thing is to let it go right away, to stop completely, but we are weak. So we should try to at least stop. We shouldn't persist in it continually. We shouldn't tell Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am going to persistently disobey you. I am going to continuously listen to music. I am going to continuously disobey all your commands and break all your commands. And inshallah, time is finished. So we should try to make this Ramadan a changing point in our lives. We should try to give da'wah about this Ramadan, so it can come into our lives. We get the reality of this. If we give da'wah to other people about the virtues in Ramadan, we benefit the most because our ears are closer to our mouth. We would benefit the most. To finish off, my ustad, he always tells us, he says a person can only perform so many salah every day. He can only perform 5 fara'id. He can only go 1 farz, hajj. He can only pray. He can only recite. It's only humanly impossible to recite a certain amount of Quran. After that, a person becomes tired. He can't recite anymore. It's only possible to fast 30 days of Ramadan. We can't fast. We can't get any reward for fara'id anymore other than the ones that are specifically set to ourselves. But if we give da'wah to someone, if we give da'wah to many people, we'll be getting the reward for their Nafil Sawm will be getting their reward for their faraiz, all their farz namaz, all their Sawm, all their fasting, all their hajj will be getting a reward for so many other faraid. To finish off, Maulana In'amul Hasan, one of the great akabir of Deoband, he said that if one were to live his entire life like Ramadan, then his death will come to him like Eid. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let us enjoy this Ramadan, let us value it in moments of hunger and thirst. Let us revive the spirits of the Sahaba. This was their daily condition. Let us enjoy this Ramadan. Let us anticipate it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to honor it, to cherish it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to fast with the correct desire and zeal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the strength to commit ourselves, to change ourselves inside this month of Ramadan. And we shouldn't restrict our intention. We should make our intentions high. Inshallah, I want to change my life. I want to change my life of my colleagues. I want to change the life of my families. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst those fortunate souls whose emancipation and deliverance from the fire of Jahannam is confirmed. And may He enter us into the gardens of Jannah eternally. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر وأصدقهم حياء عثمان وأقضاهم علي وفاطمة سيدة نساء أهل الجنة وهمزة أسد الله وأسد رسوله اللهم اغفر للعباس وولده مغفرة ظاهرة وباطنة لا تغادر ذنبا الله في أصحابي لا تتخذوهم غردا من بعدي فمن أحبهم فبحبي أحبهم ومن أبغضهم فببغضي أبغضهم وخير أمتي قرني ثم الذين يلونهم ثم الذين يلونهم عباد الله رحمكم الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروا الله كذكركم ولذكر الله تعالى أولى وعز وجل وأتم وأهم وأكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. أقم الصلاة.